कि you're born to do something, you want to do something, you wish to do something, आपकी पूरी life एक जगह focused है, and then that happens. I feel very good about it because, like you said, it doesn't make a difference if you're a male or a female. We have a duty towards our nation, and irrespective of the gender, we should get an opportunity to serve it. मैंने स्वॉर्ड मेरे पास है और जब मैंने स्वॉर्ड को सल्यूट करने के लिए इधर किया, सो आई लुक्ड इनटू माय पेरेंट्स आईज। और रौनिक, पूरी जिंदगी मैंने को बहुत परेशान किया था नॉटी गर्ल बन के, और लेकिन उस दिन जब हमारी आईज आंखें मिली तो मैंने उनके आंखों में जो जो देखा ना, वो सारा कुछ वाइप ऑफ कर दिया कि प्रिया, यू हैव मेड योर पेरेंट्स प्राउड ऑफ।
We started the iRonik show with a podcast on defense, and today's episode is another defense special. Indeed, it's very special for the fact that our guest today, Major Priya Jhingan, is the first lady cadet of the Indian Army. Yes, lady cadet number 1 of the Indian Army. This podcast is a story of how she did it, her love for uniform. We also explored her adventurous side. Watch this extremely motivating, extremely adventurous episode today on the iRonik show. Enjoy. Major Priya Jhingan, welcome to the iRonik show. I know I've been, while interacting with you last couple of weeks or so, I've been calling you ma'am, but I believe, and watching all your interviews thereafter, I know that you prefer to be called major or officer. So for this podcast, we'll call you officer or major, and we'll stick to that.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
So at any point you feel that I'm again going back to my natural instinct of calling you ma'am, please point me out, and we'll be
Okay.
happy to come back to that. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Sorry. Thank you, Major. Thank you so much for your time and coming onto our show. It's really, inspiring for to speak to people like you, and not only being a male or being a female. It does not, really matter which gender are you. People like you, Captain Gunjan Saxena, we spoke about it. You guys have been the door openers for for female candidates to get into Indian Army, Indian Air Force. So how does that feel?
Uh, it's very humbling. First of all, it's very humbling. And I feel very good about it because, like you said, it doesn't make a difference if you're a male or a female. We have a duty towards our nation.
Right.
And irrespective of the gender, we should get an opportunity to serve it. Right. So that was what the aim behind it was. And that is the reason I wrote a letter to the Chief of Army Staff requesting him that women should be permitted into the Indian Army. And I'm very happy that I was able to make a difference and that women were granted entry into the Indian Army. So it was a very, very fulfilling experience to be able to make a difference where it really matters.
So, Major Priya, before we go into the details of your commissioning into Indian Army, being from the first batch of the cadets, so I'll just like to know if you can give us a your background, the knowledge about your background, how it all started, how was the where you are born, how was that your father was into police. So how
Mhm.
did that passion of army get into you, your initial days? If you can please walk us through that.
Yes. So dad was in the police, so the uniform always had a very big attraction for me. Anybody in uniform displays a kind of respect and discipline, which every youngster, likes to inculcate. So that was exactly what was happening with me. I wanted to wear the uniform. And besides that, there was a TV serial. It was called Udan, which was
Right.
based on a police officer, the second police officer to be commissioned into the into the IPS. So when she would come on TV, she would wear her felt and she would wear her belt and tie her laces and look herself. When I used to see her, I wanted to do that myself. So I would wear my dad's felt and cap and behave like an officer in front of the mirror. So that came in very early, and initially it was the police, police, police. But I was in class 9, and that was the time we had one of the governors come into the school, into Loreto Convent, Tara Hall, and along with the governor came his ADC. So this ADC was in uniform. He was a young captain, young officer, and extremely handsome. And in this military regalia, he looked so attractive. So all of us just kept looking at him, all the girls, and we hardly listened to what the governor was saying. His uniform was so attractive. So once the speech and all finished and we got back to class, so all the girls, they were swooning over the looks of the captain, and they said, I'm going to get married to an army officer. We're going to get married to an army officer. And I stood there in a corner, and I know what sparked in me. And I stood up and I said, girls, I'm going to be an army officer. So that was the day that spark really started, and then went on and on and on and on for a couple of years. And I got to know that you've got to study a whole lot to join the IPS. So I said, all right, no police, it'll be the army for me. And I was very, very mistaken, because you have to study a whole lot in the army as well. But if anybody was to ask me when was the first time you really thought about joining the army, so I would pinpoint to this day in class 9.
I believe, on a lighter note, I believe same thing would have happened to a lot of young cadets who joined the army. They were looking up to you, and they, oh, what a beautiful cadet! Let us join the army. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay. So, ma'am, how was your sorry, Major Priya, how was the initial education? I mean, where do you start? How was your childhood? Where do you start, and how was the education?
Right. So I was born and brought up in the beautiful hill station Simla. We call
Okay,
it Simla because people born in that age call it Simla. But now it
right.
is Simla, but for us it will all remain Simla. So I studied in the Loreto Convent, Shara Hall. I did my 10th till there, ICSE till there, and I was a very, very naughty child in school. I mean, to that extent that there is a quotation by the vice principal who said that Priya Jhingan is the cause of 95% of trouble in her class.
So,
Uh,
can we have a Wi-Fi fest?
yo, so I was telling my friends the other day that I took my job of being the prankster very, very seriously. I made sure that I disturbed every period, every time that I was hauled up and scolded in front of everybody, and that made me a hero, which is, I mean, I understand now how stupid that is, but that time that was the aim. And there was a time that I was debadged as a captain, and I was coming down from the staircase after giving my badge in front of everybody, and all the girls were crying because Priya Jhingan had been taken off the captainship, and I was feeling very cool about it. And of course, this changed around class 10. And thereafter, we all means that we did not have a lot of choices that time when it comes to school and colleges. So we all went to Loreto Convent, Tara Hall, and the same batch of girls, we went to the same Beads College. That is a convent also in Simla. And it was after college that due to what I saw, I read this interview, this advertisement in the newspaper to do with the army, which changed the entire prospect, the trajectory of my studies, which we can come to later on. But I had a beautiful school life. I remained a hero in school, and when I went to college, I was the class representative for all the years and finally became the president of the college. So very popular, very naughty, very energetic, and into all kind of co-curricular activities. So studies was not a priority in my life, but I got along pretty well, did well academically also, but it was other things that I was interested in.
I would just like to correct you, ma'am. You said that you were a hero, but for us, you are a hero.
Yeah, that
So,
was in school. I was the infamous hero, for the naughty, notorious things. Now, of course, yes, I'm glad to be
okay.
for something full done.
Okay, now coming back to, you wrote to the Chief of Army Staff, General Rodriguez at that point of time. आपको वो हिम्मत आई कैसे? I mean, to write someone who is just at the top of, the command of the army,
Hmm.
you're writing to him कि आप ladies को भी, female को भी allow करो to be commissioned into the Indian Army. So was that a conscious decision, or you just went ahead with it? How did that, happen?
So, Ronik, it is a combination of two things. सबसे पहले तो जब मैंने वो advertisement देखी, it was for the males to join the Indian Army. तो मैंने देखा उसके अंदर I had all the qualifications जो कि उनको चाहिए था, height इतना इतना दौड़ सकते हैं इतना ही मैं देखा सब कुछ में मैं fit हूँ except that I am not a male. So that was very frustrating. तो मुझे लगा कि ये तो बहुत गड़बड़ है. You should do something about it. लेकिन क्या करूँ उस टाइम पता नहीं था क्या करूँ. मेरे पूरी फैमिली में nobody was from the army, and like कुछ पता करने के लिए we did not have the internet, we did not have any
Right.
information. जो कुछ करना है खुद ही करना है. So then I went back to the newspaper advertisement और देखा that it is on behalf of the Chief of Army Staff. मुझे ये भी नहीं पता था चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ कौन होता है क्या होता है बट द विश टू जॉइन द आर्मी वाज सो स्ट्रांग मतलब मुझे इतनी वो था कि मुझे ये जुनून कह सकते हो आप उसको कि पता करो जो भी है कुछ ये भी नहीं पता ही इज द ओनली वन ही इज द जनरल ऑफ द इंडियन आर्मी द सीनियर मोस्ट ऑफिसर तो थोड़ी इग्नोरेंस थी और थोड़ा सा ये वेरी वेरी पैशन ये इसका कॉम्बिनेशन था विच मेड मी राइट टू हिम टू फाइंड आउट कि आप ऐसा क्यों नहीं करते हो एंड टू सजेस्ट टू हिम कि आप ऐसा करो and take the women into the Indian Army because you are missing out on a very strong chunk of your civilization, of your population, which can really serve the country. आप उनको मौका ही नहीं दे रहे हो.
वो कहते हैं ना, ignorance is bliss.
In this case, it was.
Right, right. So, did you have 1% belief कि वो letter पहुंचेगा and it will be heard? I mean, पहुंचेगा, it will be on his desk and he will give a hit to it. Was there a belief,
देखो
1% even?
नहीं देखो अगर आप लॉजिकली सोचो तो इट इज यू नो अ वेरी फार फेच्ड थॉट कि आई एम टेयरिंग अ पेज फ्रॉम माय नोटबुक एंड राइटिंग अ लेटर टू द चीफ ऑफ आर्मी स्टाफ वो दिल्ली जाएगा वो आर्मी हेडक्वार्टर्स पहुंचेगा सेक्रेटेरिएट में जाएगा विल हिज स्टाफ ऑफिसर्स गिव हिम दैट काइंड ऑफ अ लेटर बिकॉज यू ऑल गो थ्रू इट तो उस टाइम तो मुझे ये नहीं पता था पर इतना था जो मेरे हाथ में मुझे वो कर देना चाहिए दिस इज द ओनली थिंग आई कुड डू एट दैट टाइम नथिंग मोर देन दैट I couldn't have taken an interview with him and gone and made myself heard.
Right.
So अपनी तरफ से जो मैं कर सकता था वो मैंने कर दिया and then I just left it कि whatever will happen will be for the best. But जो आप पूछ रहे हो कि क्या मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि वापस रिप्लाई आएगा नहीं मुझे नहीं लगता था he will write back. So when he did finally write back, I was very pleasantly surprised and my respect for the army grew many-fold. That see, they are concerned about a small town girl sitting in the hills writing a letter to the chief. And he has the time, honesty, sincerity to write back to her.
Okay, so it was 1992, right? When the first batch of your lady cadet and
We
all
went
that
to the
passed out.
academy. No,
And
no,
you
we
were
passed
the
out in 93. 92, we
93,
joined
right?
the academy.
You joined, yes. So you were the silver batch holder of that particular batch of the 93 batch and the lady cadet number 1.
Yes.
How was that? I mean, when you were commissioned into the Indian Army, how was that feeling? I'm certainly sure कि ये smile कम से कम 10 गुना होगा उस दिन.
और वो स्माइल के अलावा ना जो ऐसा कभी लगता है कि you are born to do something, you want to do something, you wish to do something, आपकी पूरी लाइफ एक जगह फोकस्ड है and then that happens. जब वो हो जाता है that feeling is indescribable. मुझे वो मोमेंट याद है जब हमारी पासिंग आउट परेड चल रही है एंड मैंने स्वॉर्ड मेरे पास है और जब मैंने स्वॉर्ड वो सल्यूट करने के लिए इधर किया सो आई लुक्ड इनटू माय पेरेंट्स आईज और रौनिक पूरी जिंदगी मैंने उनको बहुत परेशान किया था नॉटी गर्ल बन के और लेकिन उस दिन जब हमारी आईज आंखें मिली तो मैंने उनके आंखों में जो जो देखा ना उन्हें सारा कुछ वाइप ऑफ कर दिया कि प्रिया यू हैव मेड योर पेरेंट्स प्राउड ऑफ मी टुडे और जो कुछ वो चाहते थे जिंदगी में मैंने उन्हें दे दिया और जो कुछ मुझे चाहिए था मुझे मिल गया सो इट वाज एब्सोल्यूट डिलीवरेंस कंप्लीट फुलफिलमेंट और जैसे यू नो ड्रीम कम ट्रू आप हम इसको सिर्फ बोलते हैं लेकिन आई वाज living that. I've actually lived that moment of seeing your dream take shape.
So, Major Priya, I would like to stand up and salute you because if I stand, then I won't be visible in the camera. So, let me just sit down and salute you.
Yeah, even I will have to stand to return your salute.
Right. So, please tell us about the experience. I mean, you mentioned about your first day and, when you started, your army life and everything, how was the acceptance? I mean, we have seen in the movies like, Gunjan section, as I mentioned to you, obviously it was a movie, but then again, even the, people who are lower in the ranks than you, they also have that kind of हिचक कहते हैं ना कि आपको सर बोले कि नहीं बोले आपको सल्यूट करें कि नहीं करें because it was a completely new experience for them as well. I mean, I'm not blaming anyone, I'm no one to blame anyone, but just asking your suggestions on how it was and how that felt.
So, like you mentioned, Ronik, जब in uniform when I went to office, तो जिस दिन हम यूनिफॉर्म में गए तो उन्होंने हमारे लिए गेट खोला तो जो सेंट्री था he did not salute me. He was saluting all the other officers जो भी अंदर जा रहे थे. This was headquarters central command Lucknow. So आई वॉज द जूनियर मोस्ट ऑफिसर there. कमांड हेडक्वार्टर्स में उस टाइम सेकंड लेफ्टिनेंट्स देखने को भी नहीं मिलते थे. सो आई वॉज द यंगेस्ट ऑफिसर एंड आई वॉज अ वुमन ऑफिसर. व्हेन आई एंटर द गेट, उस्ताद ने मुझे देखा भी नहीं, देखा और बस सीधे देखते रहे और मैं चला गया अंदर और ही सल्यूटिंग एवरीबॉडी, जैन साहब जैन साहब जैन साहब, पर मेरा उसने बिल्कुल इग्नोर्ड मी. तो मुझे बहुत बुरा लगा कि यार ये तो बड़ी गलत बात है, आई एम ऑल्सो एन ऑफिसर और इसने सल्यूट ही नहीं किया. So I went to my office, but I did not speak to anybody about this in the office because सी आपने ये चैलेंज लिया है, आपको पता है कि ये वाली डिफिकल्टीज आएंगी, सो यू हैव टू थिंक अबाउट वेज ऑफ फाइंडिंग अ मींस टू फेस इट और उसको सॉल्व करने का. एक बड़ा सिंपल तरीका था. आई कुड हैव गॉन टू माय बॉस एंड टोल्ड हिम कि भाई नीचे जो सेंट्री है उसने मुझे सल्यूट नहीं किया. और बीइंग अ लीगल ऑफिसर नाउ आई नो कि उसको इसके लिए पनिशमेंट मिल सकती थी. हाउ डेयर ही नॉट सल्यूट एन ऑफिसर. तो ये I could have done that. I could have scolded him there and then and told him कि अबे salute करो, I'm your senior. But I did not do any such thing. I just thought of a plan in my mind और जब दूसरे दिन I entered the gate तो मैंने जाके उसको बोला जय हिंद उस्ताद. तो उसने बोला जय हिंद साहब. He has to return my salute. ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. I went inside से चल ठीक है किया तो. Then next day again, I was the one who would wish him Jai Hind Ustad and he would say Jai Hind Saab. So ऐसा हुआ कुछ दिन के लिए ऐसा चला, maybe a week or 10 days, and then finally I remember I entering the door and he said Jai Hind Saab and I said Jai Hind Ustad. And that was so fulfilling कि acceptance हो गई थी. But acceptance खुंदक से नहीं हुई, report करके नहीं हुई, डांट के नहीं हुई. See, I believe in something. You cannot command respect or a salute. No, you have to earn it. So I did that. And this was not the only incident. Then there was this incident कि I was posted in Calcutta, तो वहां जाके देखा कोई लेडीज टॉयलेट ही नहीं है. तो उसमें भी आप लड़ाई कर सकते थे कि भाई क्या है, लेडी ऑफिसर्स है यहाँ पे, आपके पास टॉयलेट ही नहीं है यहाँ पे. बट आई थॉट ऐसा हो नहीं सकता, कहीं ना कहीं तो होगा बिकॉज देवर सिविलियन स्टाफ में देवर विमेन ऑल्सो. तो हमने वहां पे जाके ढूंढना शुरू किया तो देखा एक टॉयलेट है जो बाहर से मेल ऑफिसर दैट स्टैंडी, और उसके अंदर जाके देयर इज अनदर टॉयलेट व्हिच इज द सिटिंग इंडियन स्टाइल. बट प्रॉब्लम इज जो मेन थे वो दरवाजा बंद ही नहीं करते थे कभी. So the moment you open it, somebody is already at the job. So it used to be very embarrassing. So then I, thought about a way. मैं जाता था उसको पहले जोर से नॉक करता था. Anybody अगर कुछ बोला yes, तो I would wait. जब वो बाहर निकल जाते थे, go inside, lock that, then go inside and lock that, use it and come back. So it's not that you always have to fight your way. It's not that you have to complain about it. अगर आपको acceptance चाहिए तो you have to behave like that, not demand and command favors and special treatment. You're an officer, you're an officer. तो कोई special treatment की जरूरत नहीं है, तभी आप accept होंगे. And that was how I earned my acceptance into the army.
एक्चुअली मेरा जो अगला सवाल था, नॉट सवाल, मेरी जो थोड़ी इच्छुकता थी जानने के लिए, नाउ दैट देयर आर सो मेनी फीमेल कैंडिडेट्स इन आर्मी इन ऑल द स्फीयर्स ऑफ डिफेंस की, जितने भी हमारे एयरफोर्स हो गए, नेवी हो गए, सब में अब वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ वुमेन ऑफिसर्स. सो डू यू थिंक, आई एम जस्ट आस्किंग फ्रॉम ए पर्सन हु हैज बीन द पायनियर of getting female candidates into army and all. So do you feel कि अब हमारा जो acceptance है इंडियन आर्मी या डिफेंस सिस्टम में for towards women cadets and women officers, has that increased, or do you think there are still a lot of work to be done?
I'll mention there are two things here. एक है कि acceptance by the forces. That is, has the Indian Army accepted officers? Has the Navy accepted? Has the Air Force? So I would say yes to that. A very, I would say a very strong yes, because if they had not accepted, they wouldn't have taken more and more entries. They wouldn't have been from 25, they increase it to 50, from once in a year to twice a year. So intake increase हो रहा है because they are accepted. कहाँ नहीं हो रहा है, that is on a personal level. Personal level पे both ways. If a lady officer is not able to deliver what she's promised or what she's expected to do, then she is not accepted. और दूसरी चीज है, where are men come from? Everybody is not a cosmopolitan. कोई जो आपके men हैं कहाँ कहाँ से आ रहे हैं, so they take a little time to accept that a woman is commanding them. She is giving orders. Personal level पे बहुत काम की जरूरत पड़ेगी दोनों तरफ से, men as well as women. But as far as our forces are concerned, I see complete acceptance.
So it was, I think you served the army for almost 10 years.
Absolutely, 10 years.
Right. Ma'am, can you please elaborate about where you were commissioned and what was actually the role that you were?
till now, we do not have women in the fighting arms. That means
Right.
we are not in battle and we are not in the infantry right now, which will happen in a while. But initially, when the women were commissioned into the Indian Army, they were into the Judge Advocate General's department, which is where I was commissioned. We had the ordnance, we had the ASC, and we had the education corps. Later on, they started off with signals and engineering. ये सब कुछ स्टार्ट किया पर अभी भी इन्फेंट्री में फाइटिंग आर्म्स में नहीं है women नहीं है. Though Air Force and all, they have taken them as fighter pilots. So it will take a little time, it will happen. My job in the Judge Advocate General's department was that of a judge advocate. हाँ, तो हमारा आई वॉज डूइंग कोर्ट मार्शल्स. जैसा आपका सिविल में ट्रायल होता है तो ट्रायल में जज बैठता है. पुराने जमाने में ज्यूरी रहती थी. तो
Right.
फौज में अभी तक ऐसा है कि वेर एवर अ क्राइम इज कमिटेड, say a crime is committed at the border of say Shillong or maybe Nagaland or कहीं पे भी पूरी, तो जो कोर्ट है वो वहां जाता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि जो जिसने ऑफेंस कमिट किया है वो हमारे पास आएगा, नहीं. कोर्ट वहां बनेगा, वहां पे एक टेम्पररी एक कोर्ट रूम बनेगा, वहां पे जज एडवोकेट जाएगा, वहां पे पूरा आपका प्रिसाइडिंग ऑफिसर, बाकी ऑफिसर्स जो कोर्ट मार्शल करते हैं, प्रोसिक्यूटिंग ऑफिसर, डिफेंस ऑफिसर, अक्यूज्ड वहां आएगा, विटनेसेस वहां आएंगे, तो पूरा फुल फ्लेजेड ट्रायल वहां पे चलता है. और जब जो ट्रायल स्टार्ट होता है और जब तक पनिशमेंट खत्म ना हो जाए या वो क्विट ना हो जाए, जब तक ट्रायल डज नॉट सी एन एंड, तब तक पूरा कोर्ट वही रहता है. अनलाइक जैसे सिविल में आपको सालों 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 चलते रहता है, हमारा ऐसा नहीं होता है. सो वी गो देयर एंड फिनिश ऑफ द केस, वी कल्मिनेट इट एंड देन रिटर्न. So my job was that as a judge advocate, as a an advisor and conductor of the court martials, the judicial trial of officers or any person in the Indian Army.
So you joined the army in 1993 and served for almost 10 years. But
Yes.
after that, still that passion of, giving equal opportunities to women, that was still, I mean, with you, pretty much inculcated in you. And there was this article in TOI, if I'm not wrong, that was published in
Yes.
2020,
Hmm.
which you had published, and then Supreme Court paid a hit to that.
Yes.
And there was I think within 1 month or so, there was a ruling by the Supreme Court to give equal
It's
opportunities to
really,
women.
it is, I would say, magical, mystical. It all, both of the things happened on the same day. That article was published and the Supreme Court passed a decision on the same day. So this happened, yeah, in 2020, where we were talking about why should women officers not be given a role to command the troops? No, once you've commissioned them and you have seen them perform for so many years, it's high time that they take the same commanding roles as that as the male officers. So yes, I'm very glad that both the decisions came on the same day, and I don't know if the Supreme Court took heed from that. That was the opinion of the officer also who was fighting the case, that if you have taken women into the army and if they've proved their mettle, then why aren't you giving them the command rules?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, ma'am, now moving on from your army life, right? So, after the army, you were also writing for some leading publications in Sikkim.
Yes,
So, how did
so
that passion of writing and editing come to you?
So I have been into reading and writing all my childhood. And I used to write a diary regularly, and reading has been a passion with me since many years. Even till date, I'm doing 2 to 3 books every day. I'm reading 2 to 3 books at a time. So reading is very important for me. And once I went to Gangtok, I was so after the army, it had to be a new station, a new job, a new challenge, a new skill. Just after the army, I went to Hisar. From Hisar, I went to Gangtok. And Gangtok, I started looking for jobs. And I met a particular principal who asked me, "What are your hobbies?" And I said, "I'm fond of reading and writing." She said, "Then why don't you go to Sikkim Express, the newspaper publication there? I'm sure they'll be looking forward to somebody like you there." So when I went there, we had a young Amit Patru as the editor. And when I introduced myself to him, and he said, "Ma'am, we are looking for somebody who can do a weekly magazine for us, the women of Sikkim, and give me your ideas." So I just, penned down my ideas. We can do this. And I said, "Can you do it on your own?" I said, "Yeah, definitely. All on my own." So you don't need any assistance. I said, "Nothing except that you print it." He says, "Yeah, cool." So then I've done my bachelor's in journalism And that's how I was able to do justice to that. And I thoroughly enjoyed those 2 years working with Sikkim Express.
Great. Uh, then you also wrote a book. I think that was the passion that got translated into your book as well, the writing and your overall experience of the army. And you wrote a book called Marching On.
Yes.
So if you can, please let us know.
So this was during the pandemic.
Right.
I was at home, and Ronik, I do a lot of talks and do guest lectures and motivational talks, and you talk about your experiences. And I realized that they meant a lot to people going through the same stages in life. And when I would recall these incidents, they would be very clear, very vivid, and I could actually feel those moments when I was telling others about them. And my husband, he told me that when you talk about all these things over and over again, why don't you write them down so that for once and for all, they are there for anybody who's interested in that? Because every time you cannot give all the details. So why don't you go ahead with that? And I said, like, okay, where do I begin then? So it's a start at the very beginning where you were born. So marching on starts with I was born on the 1st of February 1968. It starts from that day. And I wrote all about my naughty life in school, my life in college and the army, my days in the academy, funny and learning and some very challenging experiences in the academy, then joining the Indian Army, my 10 years there, and then how we were released from service after 10 years. We've not given a permanent commission or any extension. Those experiences then, and then how after that I went on and on, new skills, new jobs, new stations. So I wrote all about that, and I was able to write about all the incidents that I think would make a difference to anybody's life. And also, it was like reliving your life once again. So that's how Marching On came, and I was able to publish it. And I'm very glad it's doing well, and it's making a difference to people who want to learn from other people's experiences.
And just to continue that, spreading your knowledge and spreading your, the skills that you've acquired over the years, you have also started your academy, which is MPJ Leadership Academy. So what does that academy do, and what is exactly the role of the academy?
Also, again, comes down to the period of pandemic where you realize that what this country was really missing out on was leadership. We blame a lot of things that this is not working well, this is not working well, this is not working. Things were not working well because we did not have a strong leadership to drive. One man sitting on top cannot do everything. You need to have leaders at all junctures to make sure that the machinery keeps running without any difficulties, smoothly. So that's the time we thought about starting up Major Priya Jhingan's Leadership Academy, where we could, share our own experiences, learn from others' experiences, and chalk out a program where we are able to make the youngsters strong leaders so that they can make a difference or take on more responsible roles when the country really requires them. So that was the aim behind MPJ Leadership Academy, and that's what we are doing. We try to train as many people to take on more responsibility and inculcate leadership quality.
So this academy is in Chandigarh itself, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So in 2019, in 2018, actually, you got felicitated by President Ramnath Kovind, and along with, I think, 100 more women who were the pioneers in their own field in India.
That's right.
How was that feeling, ma'am? Sorry, again, Major Priya, how was that feeling?
Okay, so Ronik, like I said, there are certain things which you can't put in words. And this was another such feeling. So there were 111 other women from different fields who were also felicitated there. And going and meeting them, it was an experience, a very, very humbling experience. You thought that I'm the first woman to join the Indian Army. There are people who was the first coolie of India. There was the first cricketer, woman cricketer. There was the first person who could read dogs, right? There was the first wrestler, the first mountaineer. So there were so many people, and it felt so good. It was so heartening to see women doing so well in their lives, fulfilling their own dreams, and setting levels for people to follow them by following their example. So it was an excellent experience and very humbling, I was saying, and very fulfilling to see that our nation is really progressing, and to see that the Ministry of Women and Child Empowerment has taken notice of it, and by felicitating them, they acknowledged their what they've given to the nation, and it was a very that was a very good act on their part, so that the world could see that yes, India is also progressing. The women are not far behind, where they'll be able to do whatever. I mean, most fields they've already joined, but whatever they have not yet done, they are capable of accomplishing that also.
I mean, the honor is actually mine, ma'am, today that I'm able to speak to you and with such an accomplished person. Okay, now coming back from your army life and all, uh, you also scaled Mount Kilimanjaro.
Hmm.
Obviously, I trust you. You are in the army. You have all the physical abilities and all to and the mindset to scale. I mean, 16,000 feet or 16. It's 19,000 feet from
Yeah,
the sea level and
19,000.
16,000 from the base. Yeah, you have the skill. How did you convince the other 6, 7 people to come with you and scale the?
So, Ronik, one thing, see, I was in the Indian Army only for 10 years, okay? And that was how many years back? 30 years back. So,
Yeah,
you've got to understand this, that it's not what the army, only what the army taught me. Army taught me to do all this, but if I had not continued with that and left it
right.
there, then there was no way I could have done this. So the thing is that whatever you've learned, you don't have to forget it. You go on and on practicing it every day at a daily level. So I did not give up my fitness regime, which the army had taught me, running and doing all kinds of physical, exerting yourself, making the most of a day. I continued to do that. I was running and I was walking and I was scaling mountains. I'm going for high altitude treks. I've been doing all that. So I was with the Lawrence School, Sanar, for 8 years, and it was during that time that there was this proposal by Mr. Ajit Bajaj, who is an Everester and Padam Shri. So he came to the school and he said that the boys from the school had gone to Mount Everest a couple of years back. So he said, this time it's for the girls. I want you to scale Kilimanjaro and I'm with you. So how many of you would like to go for it? A couple of girls raised their hands and he said that I would also like two volunteer teachers. So I and another friend of mine, she was also Priya, both of us raised our hands, and later on there were interviews and there were fitness, they checked out your fitness, physical fitness, and then they decided on 7 girls who were ready to scale it up. And so, first of all, they were motivated themselves. That's where they given their names. They volunteered to do it. And after that, we had to really, really work hard. Priya and I, both the Priyas, had to work very hard, take them out every day with a backpack, make them walk up and down the mountains and Sanar itself first. Then we were taken to Rishikesh, where we did a lot of night trekking. And then we were taken to Leh and Ladakh, where we were acclimatized. And seeing us, both of us were much, much elder to the girls. Youngest girl was 15 and I was 51. Seeing us do all those things ourselves and then asking them to follow us itself was motivation. It's not that tell them, okay, go climb that hill and I'm looking at you from here.
Mm.
It wasn't like that. I would go up, Priya would go up, and they would say, now you can do it as well. So many a times we had to first, and I believe this leadership is doing by example. It's not making people do something which you want them to do. It's making them do what you're capable of doing and taking them along with you. So we were able to motivate them because we were so motivated.
So recently, I did a podcast with Mr. Kuntal Joyshar. So he is world's first vegan to scale Mount Everest, and not
Oh,
once but twice. So
that's amazing.
I could really connect these two stories of climbing mountains. I mean, I can after speaking to him, I understood what it takes to climb a mountain, which is 16,000 feet, 26,000 feet mountain. So there are it's more than the physical abilities. It's got to do with your mind,
And also your spiritual abilities also. It's a
right?
combination of all this. It's not about climbing a mountain. It's about mounting your fears, your capabilities, and mounting your own abilities. And once you've done it, you realize that the mountain is only the physical part of it. There is much more to it. It's an entire 3D, 3 dimensional.
So, Major Priya, that I think there is one point which we have not discussed in these last 2 weeks, and might not be. It's not that everyone would know. You're also part of the season 1 of Khatron Ke Khiladi.
Yes, yes.
So how did that happen now, and how did
So that happened in, I'm forgetting the year now, but I think it was
2013?
2013.
I
No, 8.
The first
I
season,
think
2008 probably. It was 8.
at
First
least
season was.
2008,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
13 I was in Sanar, 8 I was in Jalandhar, and I just got a call from my DS who was in the academy, and he says, Priya, there is this fear factor extreme happening in India, and they are looking for an officer, a female officer, because they already have 11 retired male officers on the team, and they want to make it very different, and they want a woman who's as strong as them. And I could not think of anybody other than you. So will you be ready to take on the job? You'd like to do that adventure. And I am a very adventurous person. I'm always looking out for such things. I said, absolutely, sir. I said, should I give your number to them? I said, pass it on. So then I got a call from them, and they came and they interviewed me, and they said, are you ready for it? And I was more than ready for it. And so we went to Johannesburg. We were there for 21 days, and it was a lot of fun because all these 12 army officers, except one, all were younger to me, and we bonded so well. It was like going back into the academy again and doing all the stunts and enjoying ourselves. And then there were these celebrities. So we saw an absolutely different world out there, how they live, how different they are. I mean, they have to work very hard as well to look beautiful at all times. They're always under the camera. So they have their own kind of stresses and their own difficulties. But we bonded very well, and I thoroughly enjoyed each moment of that. Though we never reached the finals, we were out, I think, after 15 episodes, but it was really fun.
It was a fun experience for you? And for someone
Absolutely.
who loves adventurous sports, I mean, it definitely would have been a.
Yes, it was really good. I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time because I was out of the army for almost 10 years then, and
Uh-huh.
you were waiting for something to happen. कि कुछ तो और होना चाहिए. This can't be the end. So it came at the perfect time.
So, Major Priya, thank you so much for your time. I know we can speak on so many things, and it can go on for hours and hours. But for this, at least for this first podcast, I again thank you for your time, and thank you for
My
the
pleasure,
pioneer that
Ronik.
you have been, and I hope that many people, not only male, not only female, even the other gender, which is us and any other gender, get inspired by you, inspired by what you have done, and they keep on following their passion, keep on following their heart.
Thank you
Thank you,
so
Major
much,
Priya.
Ronik, for this opportunity and for the kind words that you said. Thank you and all the best for your show. You're doing a
Thank you.
wonderful job.